What we're coming to here are the remains of the second tree to blow down, and a real disaster for us. This was probably the biggest tree on our land. It was a massive oak tree, hundreds of years old, and a couple of months ago, as it happened, I was approaching it up there on the hill, and there was an enormous crunching sound, and it split into two and fell to the ground. Again, in a tangle of branches and broken branches. Once again, we were fortunate to have the help of our long-suffering friends to help us cut up and burn the smaller parts. The remainder of it, however, is going to stay here until it rots away. The only access is on foot, so it's just not practical to try to move it, be it as just for firewood, for example. And this is a very sad sight for us. Down below the fallen oak, however, one can see our main creek. It's flowing quite merrily, although since we haven't had a lot of rain in the last month, there's not a great deal of water in it. But we're going to retrace our steps and then take the trail which runs right next to the creek. So we've retraced our steps, and we're now going to take this trail which runs down to the main creek itself. And on the way, we're going to see the remains of the third tree which blew down this winter. This was not so difficult to deal with. It was a dead pine tree, but unfortunately it fell squarely across our trail. Fortunately, it wasn't too difficult to cut it into pieces and then joggy the large trunk sideways and out of the way. And passing the remains of that tree, we come down to the main creek, which is also the boundary of our land. This is very low at the moment. We haven't had much rain in the last month. Would not be unusual to see 20 or 50 times as much water flowing here, but not at the moment. Since we are, after all, in the gold country, we wondered about whether or not there is any gold to be found, but I'm afraid that panning a few buckets full of sand that we dug out from the creek produced no gold whatsoever. It's hard to see the creek among this tangle of fallen trees. A few years ago, the big pine tree fell down and brought all these others with it in an absolutely impenetrable mass down in the bottom of the little valley, so there's really nothing can be done about these. These are cedar trees which grow very well in the damper areas lower down on our land. These have black scars from a fire which they obviously survived. It occurred approximately 50 years ago. Many of the trees here have similar burn scars on them. Like this is one of the largest cedars that we have. Impressive tree behind the oak tree. Although we found no gold here, The gold mining town of Fairplay is only about barely 2 miles away, and it's quite likely that in the gold rush days more than one prospector came scrambling through here with his shovel and his donkey and his slab of bacon and his bag of beans looking for gold. Perhaps he took all that was there. Now the creek is descending into the next door property through these rocks, and eventually in about half a mile into a small lake.